In political news, another tough week for the Tories.
The government insists that the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab, values civil servants after claims that he was rude to staff.
Not only is he rude, he's also pathetic. Look at this. He was accused of chucking 3 Pret a Manger tomatoes in a fit of rage. It's the most middle-class assault ever. Step back or I'll turn you into a bruschetta. Mind you, the news was shocked. Apparently, they interviewed someone who was in the room.
Can you explain what it was like to be right in the heart of Dominic Raab's attack?
I don't know. I'm a fucking tomato. Incredibly, it's not just Dominic Raab. Did you hear about Gavin Williamson?
Cabinet Minister Sir Gavin Williamson steps down over allegations of bullying.
So, did he call someone a snowflake? Leave a passive-aggressive note?
He's reported to have told a civil servant to slit their throat and jump out of a window.
Wow. Now, not only is that shocking, it's impossible.
How to open a window.
There's more. Look how he dealt with civil servants.
Sir Gavin said,
always tell them to off, and if they have the to come and see me, jumped up civil servants.
Fucking civil servants. They should shoot themselves in the face and then give themselves a Chinese burn. He's an absolute maniac. Did you hear what he had on his desk?
This is a man who, when he was chief whip himself, was known as the baby-faced assassin. He had an actual whip on his desk, as well as a pet tarantula.
Is he in fucking Slytherin? I mean, Christ, check out the spider's name. He called it Cronus.
We must bide our time, Cronus, for soon the Dark Lord will return.
What makes all these bullying accusations even worse is that 2 years ago, Gavin made this video.
This week, Anti-Bullying Week, is a chance to thank schools and teachers for everything they do to make the classroom a safe place for every child to thrive. Bullying is never acceptable.
Bullying is never acceptable.
This is a civil servant and your spider longs for their muggle blood.
Such a piss take, isn't it? Here's how that advert should have looked.
Bullying is never acceptable. Every school must have anti-bullying policies in place so that no pupil fears coming to school or working online. We can make sure every child grows up feeling confident and free to be themselves and stamp out bullying.
Thank you, madam. Yes! Mind you, it's not just Gavin. His colleagues are just as mad.
A group of whips so disliked him that they had a discussion about whether they could come in early one morning, release the pet tarantula and stamp it to death.
Is everyone involved in politics a psychopath? I'm not a massive fan of Piers Morgan. I don't want to headbutt his budgie. Also, didn't Rishi say this 3 weeks ago?
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
Integrity? You're surrounded by tomato flingers, throat slitters and spider stampers. And it doesn't stop there. Earlier this year, the Tories put forward a council candidate called John T. Campbell, who said, possibly the creepiest thing I've ever heard. Girls smell better at 16 than at 28. A, why would you say that? B, how do you know? Oh, she's 29. Feed her to the spiders. Can it get creepier? Yes, it can. He said girls aged between 16 to 23 have a buttery, sweet smell. You're right. They're women, not margarine. Oh, they're utterly. I can't believe I'm not on a register. There's more, man. He describes their smell as unbelievably magnetic. The only thing magnetic should be the tag on his ankle. Yup. It's so shocking. But it's not surprising. Did you know at a Downing Street Christmas party, they handed out a Sexist of the Year award? It's ridiculous. We've actually got hold of the nominees. The nominees for Sexist of the Year are Boris Johnson for presiding over a culture of misogyny in number 10, Dominic Raab for calling feminists obnoxious bigots, Boris Johnson for allowing a domestic abuse bill to be dropped, Neil Parish for watching pornography in the House of Commons, Boris Johnson for abstaining from Westminster votes on abortion, Boris Johnson for referring to women using their husband's name, Boris Johnson for talking about women's breasts, Boris Johnson for looking... Can we just accept that Boris has won this? It's been a bad week for the Tories. It wasn't just the climate deal. They are dripping in sleaze.
The Prime Minister is accused of corruption and trashing democracy as MPs debate parliamentary standards.
There have been calls for more resignations, for apologies and for public inquiries.
The lobbying second jobs.
Seats in the House of Lords.
COVID contracts. Breaking the rules. Sleaze.
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 Sleaze. Sleaze, 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 sleaze.
It's unbelievable. One of the worst was Geoffrey Cox. He's the MP for Torridge and West Devon, and yet, look where he was during lockdown.
But Sir Geoffrey Cox spent a chunk of the year working in the British Virgin Islands.
He was in the Caribbean. Fuck you, West Devon! It's happy hour down the Calypso Club! Now, predictably, some of his constituents were less than impressed.
How can he be representing people here in West Devon if he's spending a month in the Virgin Islands?
This guy, a little bit more peeved.
You're a bunch of cunts.
No wonder he's angry. Have you seen how much money Cox has earned on the side?
Turns out he's earned almost $6 million since becoming an MP through second jobs.
And yet, this is the same guy who tried to charge the taxpayer £2 for a box of tea bags. That's right, he's physically and metaphorically teabagging the nation. And what's worse, there was an emergency debate on sleaze in Parliament. Look how many Tories went.
Only 46 out of 360 Tory MPs bothered to turn up to debate it.
It was a debate about MPs doing their job, and they didn't even go. No one else could do that. Why didn't you come in for your job review? Oh, I've written it down here. I couldn't be fucked. I wish I'd known about this as a kid.
Mum, I'm not going to parents' evening. They're going to make me look like a dick.
You got to go, you got to learn that. Even Boris Johnson missed the debate because he was doing what he does best, going to a hospital and not wearing a mask. And yet, despite all this, the Tories are still ahead of Labour in the polls. Boris Johnson is Teflon, nothing sticks. He gets away with anything. I'm not mucking around. He could give Ed Sheeran a wedgie, punch Mary Berry in the tits, and people would still go, he's all right, though, isn't he? He could be caught in a nursery doing Jaeger bombs dressed as Jimmy Savile, and people would still be like, I just prefer him to Keir Starmer. Maybe Labour need to sex the leader up, make him look more dynamic. Trouble is, it's bloody difficult. This is a party political broadcast on behalf of the Labour Party. Are you looking for a new Prime Minister? Keir Starmer might be the man for you. He's unforgettable.
Keir Starmer? Have you ever heard of him? No.
He's dangerous. He's got the motivational skills of a football manager.
First game after this break, that's the one in 2 or 3 weeks.
He's got celebrity mates.
When I was at school,
I had music lessons with Fatboy Slim.
Everybody loves him.
You have failed this country.
He's the human equivalent of ketamine.
I've been dubbed Special K since I was born.
Keir Starmer, come on, get into this K-hole.
So, start dealing with things that young people care about, like, I don't know, student debt.
Many graduates in England finished their studies more than £50,000 in debt.
50 grand! It's got so bad that apparently some students in the UK are being driven to work in the sex industry in order to cope with the rising costs of living and university tuition fees. That is not how you should have to get through your education.
What'd you get at uni? 2-1 and herpes?
That is brutal, isn't it? If you're doing physics, you should be studying a black hole, not getting it out. But they're not just attacking teenagers, they're even attacking toddlers. Did you know that since 2014, hundreds of English playgrounds have been closed due to Tory budget cuts? They're robbing kids of the joy of a slide. How much money does it cost to run a slide? That's just metal and gravity. And it's such a joyful part of childhood. You're up there, then you're there. And you learn a new word. Whee! You can't say that as an adult. Will you marry me? Whee! You try it. That's a lovely blowjob. Whee! But who would do this? Don't ever do that, by the way. Who would do this? You'd have to have a leader who was sickened by the sight of children. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, Ross, that's just one photo. She probably liked the other girl.